Am I the asshole for breaking up my best friend's relationship and forcing him to move away from his girlfriend? I, 28 male, recently got into a fight with this girl I like for breaking up her sister's relationship with my best friend. I'm aware this sounds terrible, but there's quite a bit of backstory to explain. A few months ago, myself and my best friend, we'll call Charlie, 25 male, moved to this backwater town to vacation for a bit. The locals are rowdy, with one family in particular coming off as constantly indulgent and overbearing. The first week we arrived, before even being able to fully unpack, they paid a visit to welcome us into the neighborhood by asking us to throw a party. While I myself am not a fan of being around large amounts of people or really dancing and being generally sociable, Charlie, on the other hand, agreed enthusiastically. This family is full of rambunctious daughters, but Charlie seemed to take a liking to one sister in particular. We'll call her Jane, 25 female. I'll admit, I was in a bad mood at this party. I always get overwhelmed at large, loud gatherings, and I said I found this girl's family distasteful. Well, one of the sisters, who we'll call Lizzie, 24 female, seemed to overhear me talking about her and her family and became furious with me. She was downright rude when I tried to make small talk or explain my situation, which is fine. I prefer to be on my own anyways. After the party passed, Charlie seemed absolutely smitten with Jane and threw many parties to get her attention and spend time with her, since her rambunctious family was always present. Even when she came down with a cold, her sister Lizzie showed up unannounced, then her family not much later. I cannot even imagine if my own sister acted in such a way, but I found myself drawn to Lizzie, despite her constant rudeness towards me. James seemed to be a very flirty individual, constantly in the eye of all the men around her. She hardly paid any attention to Charlie. The whole situation was very reminiscent of something that happened to my own sister, and I found myself in the role of a protector of a loved one's honor once again. Not only that, but my sister's ex-boyfriend happened to be in town, telling Lizzie and her family just how awful he believed I was for putting an end to his atrocious treatment of my sister. I know it would be pointless to explain, but I couldn't have Charlie being hurt by some fickle townie girl, so I pointedly expressed that she didn't seem interested and that we were wasting our time in this town with nothing to offer. Charlie was pretty torn up about it, but he agreed it would be best to cut things off with her, and we packed up and left to head back to the city. Even while I was away, I found myself thinking about Lizzie often. She was constantly in my thoughts, to the point it became maddening. I happened to see Lizzie, who was in the city for some kind of trip. I thought I would finally get it over with and ask her out, but instead she turned on me, accusing me of breaking up a happy couple and said that I was the last person on earth she would ever want to be with. I've never been good at reading people or picking up on social cues, so apparently her sister is just shy, and I mistook that shyness for a lack of true interest in Charlie. Now I feel like I may have been an asshole for breaking them up, regardless of my good intentions. Lizzie downright hates me, and I'm not sure I can do anything to fix this situation.
You're the asshole, but I have to ask, have you considered you might be on the spectrum? From what it sounds like, you definitely fit some of the criteria for autism. You get easily overwhelmed and have trouble reading people, which can be indicating factors. Not trying to be an asshole, but it's something you should look into.
Edit. I decided it might be for the best to give Lizzie her space. I did try and explain myself through a text, telling her about how my sister had been in an on and off again relationship with one of our friends who we'll call W. He was using my sister and my family for money, and when I finally put a stop to it, he angrily took her money and ran off. I guess he joined the military? I also explained that I would try to set things right with Charlie and her sister, but I didn't expect her to want to talk to me or truly understand my intentions. I just wanted to set things right. Charlie and I headed back, and he and Jane managed to make up, but before I could head back to the city, apparently one of Lizzie's sisters, who we'll call Kitty, 16 female, had run off with W. The whole family seemed really distraught, and we were wildly looking for the girl. I wasn't hurting for cash, so I did what I could to help track her down. Apparently, he'd gotten Kitty pregnant, and the silly girl had gotten in her head that they were going to get married. Since I had previous experience with W, I made sure that he would be responsible for the situation in the best way I knew how. I don't want Lizzie to think I'm doing this to get on her good side, so I asked them not to tell her I was involved in the situation's resolution. But I suspect she found out. The whole situation feels awkward. I have no idea how to speak to Lizzie since she declared how repulsive she found me and how much she hates me because I definitely still have feelings for her. I also never considered myself to be autistic, but after researching it, I do believe it's something that I could possibly look further into.